Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, the place where we don't do any political news. So you do want to tune in. Let's hit the news. All right. I promise you a juicy and mildly salacious. Can you be mildly salacious, Gyi? I don't think so. I think those are...
You're the MBA here, Conrad, so you tell me.
Jeez. You did use some great SAT words. You used exemplative, which I thought was a good SAT word earlier.
Trying to keep up, man. All
right. Afinipay, rebranding as 8 a.m. We are going to use Afinipay's rebranding as an example in our second segment later on during the pod. Another thing that came out, Google, and I thought this was really fascinating because we were really successful with this for a long time, and it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of shakes out. Google is ending manual language targeting, and my bias here, Gyi, I'm curious what you think about this. They're basically going to be using AI instead of signals to determine language and intent. And it used to be, and I thought it was an upside for sophisticated advertisers like Attorney Sync, to be able to figure out the nuances of how to appropriately present specifically Spanish language content, but not always just Spanish, to the right audience at the right time in the right way. And that is going away. So I'm kind of bummed about this. Do you have any perspective on that?
Well, the bigger narrative here is the taking away control from the human operators who run these campaigns and turning it over to AI. And, the promise is that the AI is going to do a better job. If that actually works out, I think that's the big question. And, if for the sophisticated firms that have been deploying, if you got historical data on how you've used language settings, I would keep a close eye on how that impacts performance of those campaigns and accounts. Did it improve or did it go down? And when I say performance, I don't mean clicks and pixel fires. I mean, are you actually converting more value from your media spend?
Are you, can I just read behind your lines here that you think the AI is not going to be awesome and or Google is going to use this as a way to get people to waste more money on campaigns that they didn't want to do? Or is the answer to that yes?
I think a little bit of both of those. And, we're going to talk about, well, maybe not today, but, I'm doing this custom GPT segment at LHLM Summit. And I'm telling you, the AI, even with very tight guardrails, I mean, we keep talking about all these examples of the AI going rogue. It still goes rogue. And I can't, again, maybe it gets there. But today, is it going to do a better job? I don't know, TBD. But the point is, it doesn't matter. I think the thing here is more of a heads up. If you're listening to this and you run paid media campaigns, keep an eye on those campaigns that are multi-language because it's going to have an impact. But the questions will be good or bad.
All right. And the next, I promise, salacious, this is a little good. You and I have talked a little bit about private equity in the legal market. I note that my most recent social media post about private equity in the legal market, we have Azim from Herringbone Digital, which is owned by Trinity Hunt private equity firm, well-known private equity firm. We actually invited him to speak at the Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit to talk about PE's view of legal. That post got a lot of attention. One of the things that he talked about is the kind of the good and the ugly and the positive side of private equity. And on the map, so full disclosure, competitive agency to Mockingbird and Attorney Sync. On the Map has been around for a long time. We actually, if you go back into the archives, you will remember we both mocked them for writing up inaccurate reviews of our respective agencies. Actually, I'm not sure. Were you on that list? I'm not sure that you were. I think you were offended that you weren't.
No, I think I was on the list.
Okay.
In fact, I'm going to search right now and just see.
Okay. So on the Map, one of their strategies was to write what I will call inaccurate reviews of their competitors from a pure SEO perspective. But they were one of the agencies that is very quietly taken on private equity. And we found a bunch of agencies that have been purchased by PE and have kept it really, really secret. On the Map was one of those. LawRank was another one. But they're kind of imploding. Kristaps, who is a very nice guy, resigned and literally resigned publicly. I heard about this about a week ago, but he resigned very publicly about an hour before we started recording today. Their director of SEO, I want to believe his name is Victor Perez. He resigned fairly publicly about a week ago. So that's kind of the ugly side of private equity. My understanding is that there's a bit of turmoil at the agency, and that is driven by the PE folks. I think Azim would say that that's probably a cost-cutting approach where they are trying to maximize profit off the bat by cost cutting. And we'll hear more from Azim at the Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit about the good and the bad of private equity.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that talk. I mean, my biggest thing too, and I have no idea if this is a situation with On the Map, but when I think of PE, the thing that always comes up is that, and despite everybody's best intentions and efforts, the founders lose control. That's that you don't do the deal and retain full control unless you're Mark Zuckerberg. And I see over and over where I think, to me, that's the big issue, and that's the thing that I'm most curious to hear Azim talk about is how do founders still assert control? Because once they lose control, it's a different business, and for good and bad, right? There's, as they'll talk about, there's lots of resources, lots of reasons why these things can be good for companies and customers. But at least in this, I'm looking at this thing because we're talking about On the Map and resignations of CEOs. That's the publicly stated thing. I wonder how much of that is that, they're just the CEO doesn't have the same kind of decision making power when you've got PE sitting on top of it.
Yeah.
Just speculation. Who knows?
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And finally, and this also breaking news, Google Local Service Ads is launching a new verified badge. So I'm going to read this. This literally came in, again, breaking news as we were getting the show planned out. I'm literally going to read this out to you because I think it is fairly fascinating and instructive. Blah, blah, blah. And now I'm reading past the Google marketing bullshit. We are simplifying our advertising badging by launching a single badge for all advertisers. Your LSA profile will display this badge along with specific verification checks you've completed, offering more transparency, Gyi. They're offering more transparency to consumers. Discontinuing all local service ads badges, including Google guaranteed, Google screened, and license verified by Google. This is effective on October 20th. As part of the change, this is interesting, the money back guaranteed associated with the Google badge will also be discontinued. Now, the money back guarantee never applied to the legal industry, but clearly that is an issue for LSAs outside of the legal industry. And as usual, no action is required from you. All eligible advertisers who have completed the LSA verification requirements will automatically earn the new Google verified badge. So there's nothing you need to do. And they're opting you into all of this anyway. So new change, less guarantees, and simplify.
Well, to try to play devil's advocate a little bit here, they're trying to consolidate the different quote unquote badges and verifications. There were a couple floating around. But the irony is that because the big conversation, I think even the last episode that we talked about, was they took the verification badge away. Right. And so everyone's like, wait a minute, this is so weird. You've got these LSAs, there's no more verification. So I'm actually kind of relieved that they're bringing that back. Now, I think my biggest issue with it is, and this is the thing, because you can't scale this, but basic licensing, the state bar is basically doing that. But but verification and all these other descriptors that they use, it implies that they're like vetted, and you're not really vetted, right? I mean, a lot of these LSA guys that are up there, they've got lots of fake reviews. So it's not like it's like a vet, it really all that vetted. And so I think that can be misleading to consumers. And that's the thing I take umbrage with. But as a marketer for law firms and people that support law firms advertising, it's a very effective and powerful tool. Which I think we're going to see more data come out of in our, as we have this joint thing with Near Media, who will also be at Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit. I think there's going to be some interesting stuff to talk about there.
For those of you who are playing the drinking game of every time we plug Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit, I apologize to your liver. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, ask a question. Lots of our great content comes directly from user questions. And we have a favor to ask of you. During our last episode, we did an interview very bravely from Clio and Scorpion, where we grilled them on the value to the end law firm about their sole marketing relationship. Now, there were a couple things that were asserted during that call that I have questions on, and we would love if anyone would like to anonymously and quietly share with us your reporting back from Scorpion. We'd love to see that transparency about keywords. We would love to see the branded versus non-branded campaigns and economics broken out or not, as it may be the case. But if you could contact Gyi or Conrad, you can find us on LinkedIn, DM us quietly. We would love to sit down with you and have a look. And we will, of course, keep this as anonymous as possible.